The cowboy found the young Apache woman collapsed by the side of the road, trembling from cold and fear, as if she had been abandoned by the world itself. But when he lifted her onto his horse and she whispered a name no one was supposed to know, the man turned pale instantly. The next day, when the warriors appeared in silence before the ranch, everyone froze when they saw how she reacted. Subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and comment where in the world you're watching from, because now I'm going to tell you everything. The air was so cold it hurt to breathe. Jake Tucker pulled his coat tight and leaned into the morning. "Another day, Dusty," he said to the old horse beside him. "Same as the last one." His voice was the only sound besides the crunch of his boots on the frozen dirt road. He did this walk every day, down to the mailbox at the end of his long driveway. It was never anything but bills and ads, but the habit was a part of him, like the shape of his hat. He saw the shape on the road before he understood what it was. A dark pile like a lost blanket. He stopped. Dusty let out a soft, worried sound. It was not a blanket. It was a person, a young woman lying on her side in the dirt. She wore a thin shirt and jeans. Her skin was the color of cold ash. Her eyes were closed. Jake's heart hammered against his ribs. He ran the last few steps and fell to his knees beside her. "Miss, can you hear me?" He touched her shoulder. She was very cold. He saw the slow, shallow rise of her chest. She was alive, but just barely. He did not think. He acted. He lifted her up. She was light, like a bundle of dry sticks. He carried her back up the road, his old muscles burning. Dusty followed close behind, nosing the air. "Hang on now," Jake whispered. To her or to himself, he did not know. Just hang on. The house was not much, but it was warm. He laid her on the worn sofa in front of the stone fireplace. He piled wood and got a fire going, the flames licking up quick and hot. He pulled the wool blanket from his own bed and tucked it around her. He heated a can of stew on the stove. The smell filled the quiet room. He sat in his chair and watched her, his hat in his hands. A long time passed. The fire popped. Then her fingers twitched. Her eyes opened. They were dark and full of a fear so deep it made Jake's stomach clench. She stared at the fire, then at him, then at the door. "You're safe," Jake said, his voice rough. "Found you on the road. You were nearly froze." She said nothing. She just stared. "I got some stew here. It's hot." He brought the bowl over and set it on the small table near the sofa. He stepped back, giving her space. She looked from him to the bowl. Slowly, she pushed herself up. Her hands shook as she picked up the spoon. She ate slowly, then faster, until the bowl was empty. "Thank you," she said. Her voice was a dry leaf, a scratch of sound. "You're welcome. Name's Jake. Jake Tucker. This is my place." She nodded but did not give her name. She pulled the blanket to her chin and looked into the fire. The fear was still there, just under the surface. "You from the reservation?" he asked. The White Rock Apache community was many miles east, but sometimes people passed through. She nodded again, just once. "You in some kind of trouble?" This time she did not move at all. She became as still as stone. Jake knew that silence. It was the silence of a rabbit hiding from a hawk. He let it be. Night came. He gave her more blankets and took the bedroll for himself by the fire. He lay awake for a long time, listening to the wind. He thought of Mary. He thought of the empty road. He thought of the fear in the young woman's eyes. He must have slept. A sound woke him, a whisper. He held his breath, listening. She was talking in her sleep. The words were in a language he did not know, flowing and soft. Then, one word came clear. A name. Kaya. Jake's eyes opened wide in the dark. He knew that name. It was not from around here. It was from long ago. It was from his grandfather's stories, told by a fire just like this one. Stories of when his grandfather was young and the land was different. Stories of a secret place, a spring of pure water hidden deep in the mountain canyons. A sacred place. Its hidden name was Kaya. His grandfather had said, "Men have killed for less than a secret like that, Jake. You forget you ever heard it." And he had. For decades, he had forgotten. He lived his quiet life. He buried his wife. He talked to his horse. The secret was just an old story. Now, in the dark, with a strange, frightened girl sleeping on his couch, the name was back. It hung in the air like a ghost. His blood for the second time that day went cold. This was not just a lost girl. This was something else. This was trouble. He looked at her shadow on the couch. Who was she? And why was she dreaming of a secret that was supposed to be forgotten? Outside, the wind howled. It sounded like a warning. Jake did not sleep again. He sat in his chair and watched the gray light of morning fill the room. The name Kaya turned over and over in his mind. The woman, Liana, was still asleep, her breathing even now. He made coffee. The familiar routine grounded him. He was pouring a cup when he saw them. Through the window, out by the main fence, they stood. 5 men on horseback. They were perfectly still. They wore modern clothes, jackets, jeans, but their hair was long and their faces were hard. They did not move. They just watched the house. Jake's hand tightened on the coffee cup. This was it. This was the trouble he knew was coming. They had found her. He thought of his rifle, leaning in the corner by the door. But he did not move. He just watched them watch him. A floorboard creaked behind him. Liana was awake. She stood by the sofa, the blanket around her shoulders. She looked out the window. Her face did not change. She did not look surprised. She looked resigned. "They are here for me," she said, her voice quiet. "Are they going to be angry I took you in?" Jake asked. "No," she said. "They are my protection, but now you are involved. I am sorry." She walked to the door. She opened it and stepped out onto the porch. The cold air rushed in. Jake followed, standing behind her. The tallest of the men, a man with a stern face and a scar along his jaw, nudged his horse forward a few steps. His eyes were on Liana. He gave a single, slow nod. Liana nodded back. The man, who Jake would learn was named Elon, swung down from his horse. He spoke to Liana in their language. His voice was low and firm. Liana answered, her words soft. She gestured back toward Jake. Elon's sharp eyes moved to Jake. He looked him up and down. He walked to the porch. He stopped at the bottom step. "You are Jake Tucker," Elon said. It was not a question. "I am." "You found her on the road." "I did. She was nearly frozen." Elon studied Jake's face for a long moment. He was looking for a lie. He did not find one. He gave another small nod. "You did a good thing. Thank you." The tightness in Jake's chest loosened, just a little. They were not here to fight. Elon looked back at Liana. "You should not have run. It made everything harder." "I had to try," Liana said. "Trying alone gets people killed," Elon said. His voice was not angry, just tired. "We must go. Now. He has men searching everywhere." "Who has men searching?" Jake heard himself ask. Elon looked at him again. "A man who wants something that does not belong to him. He has taken something precious from us. He thinks Liana can lead him to something more precious." Jake thought of the name from the night. He spoke it quietly. "Kaya." The reaction was instant. Elon's body went still, like a coiled spring. His eyes narrowed. Liana's breath caught. The other warriors shifted on their horses. "How do you know that name?" Elon asked, his voice dangerously soft. "My grandfather, a long time ago, he told me stories. He said to forget I ever heard them." Jake looked at Liana. She said it in her sleep. Liana closed her eyes for a second. "The spring cries out, it fills my dreams." Elon let out a long, slow breath. "Then you understand some of it. The secret is not just a story. It is real, and a man named Corbin Sloan from Tucson wants to find it. He digs for copper. He thinks the spring is sitting on a mountain of metal. He will drain it. He will turn that canyon into a hole." "Why Liana?" Jake asked. "Because I am Tlij," Liana said, stepping forward. "I feel water. In the ground, in the rocks. I can find it. My people have always had someone with this gift. Sloan found out. He did not ask for help. He took my brother, Ben. He's only 12 years old." Her voice cracked on the last words. She pressed her lips together. "Sloan said he would hurt Ben if I did not find the spring for him," she continued. "So I ran from my protectors," she glanced at Elon, "to try to find Sloan myself, to make a deal. It was a mistake. I got lost. The cold took me, and you found me. And now Sloan is desperate," Elon finished. "He knows we will come for her. He knows we will try to get the boy back. His men are in the mountains already, looking. We must take Liana to a safe place. We must find Ben, and we must keep Sloane far from Kaya. If the spring dies, the heart of this desert dies." Jake looked from Elon's stern face to Liana's fearful one. He looked past them, at his quiet ranch, at the empty road. His peaceful, lonely life was over. It ended the moment he carried her inside. "What do you need from me?" Jake asked, his voice rough. Elon's gaze was steady. "Right now, we need nothing. You have done enough. This is our fight." But Liana spoke. "You know these mountains, your grandfather's stories. They might know the way, the old ways." Jake saw the hope in her eyes. He saw the immense weight on Elon's shoulders. He thought of a 12-year-old boy, scared and alone. He thought of a secret spring that his grandfather had whispered about. He made a choice. "I know some places," Jake said slowly. "From the stories, hidden canyons, old trails. I can't promise they are the right ones, but I can show you." Elon watched him carefully. "It will be dangerous. Sloane's men have guns. They are not careful with them." "I understand," Jake said. He did not feel brave. He felt scared. But for the first time in 10 years, the fear was not about being alone. It was about something bigger than himself. He gave a single nod, the same kind Elon used. "Then we go," Elon said, turning. "We leave now. Get what you need." The inside of Jake's house was suddenly very busy and very quiet at the same time. The 4 other Apache warriors came inside. They moved with a quiet purpose, filling their canteens from the sink, checking the supplies in their packs. They did not speak much. They nodded to Jake with careful respect, but their eyes were always moving, watching the windows, the doors. Jake moved through his own home like a stranger. He put cans of beans and sacks of rice into an old canvas bag. He rolled up his bedroll. He found his heavy coat and his work gloves. All the while, his mind was trying to catch up. Elon stood at the kitchen table looking at a worn map. Liana sat nearby, her hands wrapped around a cup of water. "Tell me about Corbin Sloane," Jake said, breaking the silence. He needed to understand the man who had started all this. Liana looked into her cup. "He came to the community council 3 months ago. He wore a suit. He smiled a lot. He said his company wanted to help. They wanted to create jobs. They wanted to find new water sources for the reservation." "A lie," Elon stated, not looking up from the map. "Yes," Liana whispered. "My grandmother was on the council. She did not trust his smile. She said his eyes were empty. The council said no to his offers. They said no to his surveys. He stopped smiling. He left." She took a shaky breath. "Then, 2 weeks ago, my brother Ben did not come home from school. We looked everywhere. That night, a man came to my house. It was not Sloane. It was one of his men. He gave me a phone." She put the cup down. Her hands were trembling. "Sloane was on the phone. He said Ben was safe. He said Ben was watching television and eating pizza. He said Ben would stay safe if I helped him." "How did he know about you?" Jake asked. "About your gift?" "We do not know," Elon said, his voice hard. "Someone talked, or he paid someone. It does not matter now. He knows," Liana continued. "On the phone, Sloane said he had studied our old stories. He had heard legends of a hidden spring with special water. He said he wanted to test the water. He said it was for science, but I knew. If he found it, he would take everything. He would pump the water out to dig. The land would dry up and die." "And he knew you could find it," Jake said. "Yes. He told me to meet his men at the edge of the reservation. He said they would take me to Ben, and then we would go to the mountains together. But I knew if I went with them, if I showed them the way, they would never let me or Ben go. So I ran the other way. I thought I could find Sloane's main camp myself. I thought I could reason with him." She shook her head. "I was wrong. I got lost in the storm. I walked for 2 days. Then, I could not walk anymore." "Sloane is not a man you reason with," Elon said, finally looking up. "He is a man who takes. He takes land. He takes water. He takes children. He has many men and many machines. He thinks the law is slow and far away out here. He is mostly right." Jake felt a cold anger settle in his stomach. It was a simple, ugly story. A powerful man wanting something and taking it from those who could not stop him. "What does he look like?" Jake asked. "He is not tall," Liana said. "His hair is very light, like straw. He always looks clean, even when there is dust everywhere. His voice is calm, too calm." It makes his words more scary. One of the younger warriors, a man named Mateo, spoke from near the door. He has a camp in the foothills. We have seen it. Many trucks, a big trailer for himself. Men with rifles walk the edge. The boy is there. We get the boy first, Elan said, his finger tapping a spot on the map. Then we take Liana deep into the mountains, away from him. We hide until he gives up. He will not give up, Liana said, her voice firm now. He will keep looking. He will hurt the land while he looks. We have to stop him. We are 5 men, Elan said. He has 20, maybe more. We are not an army. We are protectors. Our job is to keep you and the secret safe. That is the priority. Jake saw the pain flash across Liana's face. The priority was not her brother. It was the spring. She understood it, but she did not accept it. You know these stories, Liana said, turning to Jake. Where would the spring be? Jake walked to the table. He looked at the map. He pointed to a vast area of canyons and peaks. My grandfather talked about a place where 3 red rock fingers pointed to the sky. Behind them, a canyon so narrow a horse cannot pass. The water is in there. He called it the Heart Place. He only saw it once, when he was a boy. Elan studied the area. That is a big place to search, and Sloan will be looking there too. But we have a Tlej, Mateo said with a hint of pride. She can feel it. We just need to get close. Elan folded the map. Then that is where we go, to the 3 red fingers. We move fast. We stay off the main trails. We see Sloan's men, we hide. We do not fight unless we have no choice. He looked at Jake. You are sure about this? Once we leave, there is no going back to your quiet life. Jake looked around his quiet house. It felt empty now, not peaceful. He thought of a boy in a trailer, and a man with empty eyes and a calm voice. I'm sure, Jake said. He picked up his bag and his old hat. Let's go. The horses were ready. Dusty stood with the 5 Apache horses, his ears twitching at the new company. Jake gave his ranch one last look. The morning sun hit the porch where he touched the railing every day. He did not touch it now. He turned his back and climbed into the saddle. Elan took the lead, but he looked back at Jake. You know the way to these 3 fingers from here? Jake nodded. We go north, behind the old mesa. There is a dry wash. We follow it into the foothills. It is not a trail people use much. The rocks are loose. Good, Elan said. We avoid used trails. They moved out, a single line of riders leaving the flat land of Jake's ranch. The sound of hooves on hard earth was the only sound. Liana rode behind Elan, her eyes on the horizon. Jake came next, with the other warriors behind him. After an hour of riding, Elan slowed his horse to ride beside Jake. Tell me about the wash. How long? Maybe 5 miles, Jake said. Then it climbs. The land gets broken, many places to hide, also many places for an ambush. Elan gave a sharp look. You think like a soldier. No, Jake said. I think like a man who has lived alone a long time. You learn to see where trouble could come from. For the first time, something close to respect flickered in Elan's eyes. We will send Mateo ahead. He has young eyes. He will signal if he sees anything. Elan made a small hand motion. The young warrior, Mateo, nudged his horse forward and trotted ahead, disappearing into the brush. They rode in silence again. The sun climbed higher. The air warmed. Jake watched Liana. She was not just looking at the land, she seemed to be listening to it. Her head tilted sometimes, as if hearing a faint sound. They reached the mouth of the dry wash. It was a wide cut in the earth, full of sand and round stones. Mateo was waiting there. He shook his head. The way was clear. As they started into the wash, Liana spoke. Stop. Everyone stopped. She slid off her horse. She walked a few steps to the side to a patch of darker sand. She knelt and put her hand flat on the ground. She closed her eyes. Elan watched, patient. There is water here, she said softly. Very deep. Not for us, but the roots of the mesquite tree know it is there. She opened her eyes and pointed to a gnarled tree clinging to the wash wall. The water is sad. It has been a long time since it touched the air. Jake stared. He had ridden past this wash 100 times. He had never thought about water under his feet. How does that help us? One of the other warriors asked. It tells me the land is alive, Liana said, standing and brushing sand from her knees. It tells me the secret of Kaya is still safe. If the spring was hurt, all the deep water would feel sick. This water is just sleeping." She got back on her horse. The group moved on, but the mood had shifted. Jake saw the warriors look at Liana with a quiet reverence. She was not just a woman they were protecting. She was important in a way he was only starting to understand. The wash began to narrow and climb. The walls rose up on either side. The going became slower. Rocks clattered under the horses' hooves. Jake moved up beside Elan. "After this climb, we come to a high plateau. We can see for miles. We will see the three fingers from there, if we are in the right spot." "Good," Elan said. "Sloan will have men on the main roads. They will not be in places this difficult. Not yet." They reached the top of the climb as the sun began to fall in the sky. The land spread out below them, a sea of red rock and green brush, and there, in the distance, were three distinct, sharp peaks of red stone, jutting into the sky like fingers. "There," Jake said, pointing. Elan pulled a small pair of binoculars from his pack. He looked for a long time. "I see no movement, no dust from trucks." He lowered the binoculars. "It is a long way. 2 days of hard riding." "We need water before then," Mateo said. "The horses need it." Liana pointed toward the east. "There is a canyon that way, not the big one, a small one. There is a seep at the back of it. The rocks are wet. We can get enough for the horses and fill our canteens." "How do you know?" Jake asked. "She knows," Elan said simply. He turned his horse. "We go to the seep. We rest there for a short time, then we ride into the night. We want to be closer to the fingers by morning." As they rode toward the smaller canyon, Jake felt a strange feeling. It was not quite fear. It was the feeling of being part of something. He was no longer just a man on a lonely ranch. He was a guide. These people were depending on him. The thought was heavy, but it did not feel bad. He looked at Liana, who was humming that low, old tune. He looked at Elan, whose eyes never stopped scanning the land. He was in the middle of their story now. There was no going back. The seep was not a spring, just a dark, damp stain on the canyon wall where water slowly wept from the rock. It filled a small, rocky basin. It was enough. The horses drank first. Then the men and Liana filled their canteens. They ate cold beans and hard bread in silence. Jake sat apart, as was his habit. But this time, Liana came and sat beside him. She did not speak at first. She picked up a dry, curled leaf from a desert lavender bush. She crushed it gently between her fingers and held them out to Jake. "Smell," she said. He did. It was a clean, sharp scent. "It smells good." "It tells you something," she said. "The plant is dry, but it is not dead. It is waiting. The oils in the leaf protect it. The smell tells animals not to eat it. Everything here has a purpose. Everything is trying to live." Jake looked at the sparse brush around them. "I always thought of it as empty land, just something to get across. It is not empty. It is full of stories." She pointed to a set of faint tracks in the sand near the water. "Coyote, he came here last night. He was careful. He watched for a long time before he drank." She pointed to a line of tiny seeds leading to a crack in the rock. "Mouse, she is storing food. She knows the seasons are changing." Elan walked over, checking his horse's hooves. "She sees what most people do not. It is her gift. And it is why Sloan wants her. It is why we must be more careful than the coyote," Liana said, standing. She looked toward the canyon entrance. "The land is speaking a new story now, a hurtful one. Can you feel it, Elan?" Elan straightened up. His eyes became sharp. "What kind of hurt?" "Not a natural one, a heavy shaking feeling, far away. But it travels through the stone." Jake understood. "Machines. Sloan's digging machines." Elan nodded grimly. "They are getting closer to the three fingers. We must move." They rode out of the small canyon as the last light faded. They traveled under a blanket of stars, the land a pool of shadows. Liana rode next to Jake. "Your grandfather," she said quietly. "He respected the secret. Why?" Jake thought for a moment. He said it was a promise. He was lost, sick with thirst when he was a boy. An old man from your people found him, gave him water from a gourd, let him out. My grandfather asked where the sweet water came from. The old man just smiled and said, "From the heart." My grandfather promised never to look for it. He said some hearts are meant to stay hidden. He was a good man, Liana said. He was, Jake said. He felt a pang of guilt. And I am breaking that promise by leading you there. No, Liana said firmly. You are keeping a different promise. You are helping to protect it. That is a greater respect. They rode for several hours in the cool darkness. Elan called a halt in a grove of juniper trees. They would rest here until first light. No fire. They ate more cold food. Mateo was restless. He kept looking back the way they had come. We are moving too slow, he muttered to one of the other warriors. Ben is in that camp. Every day is a danger for him. Elan's plan is the wise one, the other man answered. We cannot storm the camp. But we could trade, Mateo said, his voice low but intense. We have something Sloan wants, information. We could get Ben back first. Quiet. Elan's voice cut through the dark. He was a shadow against the trees. We do not trade with a snake. He would take the information and keep the boy. We stay to the plan. We get to the high ground. We watch the camp. We find a moment when they are not watching. We take Ben back when we can do it quietly. Now sleep. You have the first watch, Mateo. Watch the east ridge. The next morning, the sun rose hot and fast. They were closer to the Three Fingers now. The red rock peaks dominated the skyline. As they crossed a wide, flat plain of scrub, Liana suddenly held up her hand. Stop. They all froze. She got off her horse and walked forward a few steps. She knelt down. The ground here was scarred. There were deep, straight lines pressed into the dirt, tire tracks. Recently, Elan said, joining her. Yesterday. He followed the tracks with his eyes. They led toward a line of low hills to the north, away from the Three Fingers. They are searching, Jake said. They do not know where to look either. Elan stood and scanned the hills. They are between us and the camp where Ben is held. We cannot go straight. We must go around, through the high canyons. It will take an extra day. Mateo let out a frustrated breath but said nothing. They turned their horses, aiming for a break in the cliffs to the west. As they passed a large, solitary boulder, Jake saw something. A piece of bright orange plastic tied to a stake, driven into the ground. On it, black letters read, Sloan Mining Survey Marker. They all looked at it. It was a sign, simple and ugly. It said the man was here. It said he believed the land was his to mark, to take. Liana reached out and pulled the stake from the earth. She threw it on the ground. She did not say a word, but her message was clear. The fight was no longer somewhere in the distance. It was here. Mateo could not sleep. The words of the warrior, Elan, echoed in his head. Asterisk, we do not trade with a snake. But what if it was not a trade? What if it was a trick? A way to get Ben out first? He looked over at Liana, asleep under her blanket. Her face was tight with worry even in dreams. He thought of Ben, a boy he had taught to track rabbits. A boy who should be laughing, not locked in a trailer. The moon was high when Mateo made his decision. He moved silently, rolling his blanket. He took his canteen and his knife. He did not take his rifle. He did not want to look like a threat. He wanted to look like a man making a deal. He slipped past the other sleeping warrior on watch with a quiet signal. He melted into the shadows of the juniper trees and began to run toward the north, toward the hills where Sloan's men were searching. It took him 2 hours to find them. A camp with 2 trucks and a small fire. 3 men. He waited, watching. When one man went away from the fire to relieve himself, Mateo stepped out of the darkness, his hands open and empty. I have information for Mr. Sloan, Mateo said, his voice steady. The man jumped, fumbling for his rifle. Who are you? My name is Mateo. I am from White Rock. I know where the water seer is. I will tell Sloan where to find her. In return, he lets the boy, Ben, go. Now. The man stared, then grinned. Wait here. A short time later, a satellite phone was pressed into Mateo's hand. A calm, smooth voice came through. This is Corbin Sloan. Do you have the tillage? I know where she is camping tonight, Mateo said. At the base of the 3 red rock fingers. I will tell you the exact place. You send the boy to the old windmill on the east road. When I see he is free, I will give you the location. Sloan's laugh was soft. You are not in a position to make demands, Mateo. You are in my camp. Tell me where she is. Then, we will discuss the boy. Mateo's heart sank. He had been a fool. No, the boy first. The boy is fine. He is watching a movie. Tell me the location, and I will make sure he stays fine. Refuse, and I will have my men start breaking his fingers one by one. You can listen on the phone." Mateo felt the world tilt. He had wanted to be a hero. He had only made everything worse. In a hollow voice, he described the grove of junipers, the shape of the cliffs. He gave every detail. "Good," Sloan said. "Now you will stay with my men. If this is true, you will be rewarded. If it is a trick, you will be punished." Back at the camp under the three fingers, the sun woke Jake. He stretched his stiff muscles. Something was wrong. He looked around. Mateo's bedroll was gone. The warrior who had been on watch was standing, looking confused. "Mateo is not here," the man said. Elan was instantly awake. "When did he leave?" "I do not know. He passed me in the night. I thought he was just checking the perimeter. He did not come back." Liana sat up, fear in her eyes. He was talking about making a trade. He wanted to get Ben back first. Elan's face turned to stone. "Fool," he stood quickly. "We must leave, now, pack everything." They moved in a frantic hurry, saddling the horses. They had just mounted up when the sound reached them, the growl of truck engines, still distant but coming fast. "Ride!" Elan shouted. They kicked their horses into a run, heading away from the grove, deeper into the maze of rocks at the base of the three fingers. The trucks could not follow here, but men on foot could. They rode into a narrow passage between two high walls of rock. The opening led to a wider area scattered with boulders, a place known as Three Finger Rock. As they entered the clearing, a voice shouted from above. "There, on the horses!" Men appeared on the rock ledges above them. 4, 5, 6 men. They held rifles. "Don't shoot," one yelled. "Sloan wants the girl alive." Elan did not hesitate. "Go, through the far gap." He turned his horse, putting himself between the men on the ledge and Liana. A shot rang out. It was a loud, sharp crack in the morning air. Elan jerked in his saddle. His hand flew to his left arm. A dark red stain spread quickly through his shirt. "Elan!" Liana cried. "Keep riding," he grunted, his face pale with pain. He spurred his horse forward, following Jake and the others as more shots kicked up dust around them. They plunged into another narrow crack in the rock, a steep, twisting path that led upward. The trucks and the men could not follow here. The sounds of shouting faded behind them. After a long, hard climb, they reached a small, hidden ledge. They stopped. Elan almost fell from his horse. Jake and another warrior caught him. They laid him on the ground. The wound was high on his arm. The bullet had gone straight through. The blood flowed freely. Liana was already tearing a strip from her shirt. "We need to stop the bleeding, now!" Jake fumbled in his pack for his clean bandages. His hands were shaking. The peaceful desert morning was gone. It had been shattered by the sound of a rifle shot and the sight of a friend's blood. Mateo was gone. Sloan knew where they were, and Elan, their strong leader, was wounded. They were trapped on a high ledge, with hunters below. The hidden cave was dark and cool. It smelled of old dust and dry earth. They helped Elan sit with his back against the wall. His face was tight with pain. "Let me see," Liana said, her voice calm but urgent. Jake brought over his pack. He had a small first aid kit, a thing of clean bandages and antiseptic. He had not used it in years. Liana took it. She gently cut away Elan's shirt sleeve around the wound. There were 2 holes, one on the front of his arm and one on the back. The blood oozed slowly now. "The bullet went through," she said. "That is good. It is not inside." She looked at Jake. "We need to clean it. Do you have water?" Jake handed her a canteen. Liana poured clean water over the wounds. Elan gritted his teeth but made no sound. She dried it with a clean cloth from the kit. She took out the small bottle of antiseptic. "This will hurt," she warned. "Do it," Elan said. She poured the liquid over the wounds. Elan's whole body went rigid. A low hiss escaped his lips. Then it was done. She pressed a thick bandage to both sides and wrapped it tight with a long strip of cloth. "We need something more," Liana said, "to fight infection, to help the pain." She looked toward the cave entrance. "There is a plant, a small one with yellow flowers. It grows in cracks where the sun is weak. I saw some near the path when we came up." "I will get it," Jake said. He stood up. The other warrior, Thomas, stood too. "I will watch the path," Thomas said. "Sloan's men may try to follow." Jake followed Liana to the cave entrance. She pointed down the steep path. "There, on the left, by the gray rock." Jake saw it, a small, tough-looking plant with little yellow blooms. He climbed down carefully and picked a handful of its leaves. He brought them back to Liana. She took the leaves and crushed them between two clean stones. A sharp green smell filled the air. She mixed the paste with a little water from the canteen. Gently, she removed the bandage and spread the cool green paste over Elan's wounds before wrapping it again. "It will help," she said. "My grandmother taught me." Elan nodded, his breathing easier. "Thank you." He looked at the others. His face was pale, but his eyes were clear. "Where is Mateo?" "Gone," Tomas said, his voice heavy with anger. "He betrayed us. He went to Sloan." Elan closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, the pain was not just from his arm. "He is young. He let his heart rule his head. Now Sloan knows we are here. He knows we are close to the spring." "What do we do now?" Jake asked. He felt useless. He was just a rancher, not a fighter. "We cannot stay here," Elan said. "This cave is a hiding place, not a fortress. They will search. They will find us." He tried to push himself up with his good arm and winced. "You cannot ride," Liana said firmly. "I have to," Elan said. "No," Jake heard himself say. The word was strong, surprising him. Everyone looked at him. "If you ride now, you will fall. You will make the wound worse. We need a better plan." Elan stared at him. "What is your plan, Jake Tucker?" Jake took a deep breath. He was scared. But he looked at Liana's worried face and at Elan's weakness. He thought of his quiet ranch and how it had not needed courage. This place did. "We rest here for today. Just today. Tomas and I will watch the paths. Liana will care for you. Tonight, when it is dark and cold, we move. You can ride if we help you. We go not to the spring, but around it. We find a place to hide you and Liana, somewhere safe and high. Then Thomas and I, we go to the mining camp." Liana's eyes went wide. "No, it is too dangerous." "It is more dangerous to do nothing," Jake said. "Sloan has all the power now. He has Ben. He has men. He is waiting for us to lead him to the spring. We will not lead him there. We will go to him. We will get Ben back." Elan studied Jake's face for a long time. "You are not a warrior." "I know these hills," Jake said, "and I know how to be quiet. So does Tomas. We do not fight them. We slip in like the coyote Liana told me about. We watch for a long time. Then we take the boy and we slip away." A silence filled the cave. The only sound was Elan's labored breathing. "It is a good plan," Elan said finally. "A brave plan." He looked at Thomas. "You will do this with him?" Thomas nodded, his expression serious. "I will." Elan looked back at Jake. "Then we rest. We prepare. Tonight, we change the story." He leaned his head back against the cave wall. For the first time, he looked not just like a leader, but like a man who needed help. Jake went to sit by the cave entrance, looking out at the vast, dangerous land. He was still afraid, but the fear had a new shape. It was not a wall holding him in. It was a path he had chosen to walk. The plan changed. Elan rested through the day, but by nightfall, his fever was worse. The ride to a new hiding place was impossible. Liana sat beside him in the dark cave, her hand on his good shoulder. "We cannot wait," she said quietly. "The spring calls. It is in pain. Sloan's machines are very close. I can feel the wrongness in the rocks. If we do not go to Kaya now, it will be too late." "You cannot go alone," Elan said, his voice weak. "I will go with her," Jake said. He had been thinking about it all afternoon. "Thomas stays with you. We go to the spring. We see what is happening. Maybe we can slow Sloan down, cause some trouble. Then we come back." Elan looked at Jake, then at Liana. He was too weak to argue. He gave a slow, reluctant nod. "Be the coyote, Jake Tucker. Do not be seen." Jake and Liana left as the moon rose. They went on foot, leading their horses down the steep path until the ground leveled out. Then they mounted up. "Which way?" Jake asked. Liana closed her eyes for a moment. She hummed her low tune. She pointed northwest toward the tallest of the 3 stone fingers. "There, the heart is behind the tallest finger. There is a crack in the world." They rode in silence. The night was huge and full of stars. After 2 hours, Liana stopped. "Here, we walk." They tied the horses to a sturdy juniper. The land before them was a chaos of giant boulders. They picked their way through, Liana leading with a sure-footed confidence. They came to a sheer rock wall. It looked solid. "Here," Liana whispered. Jake could see nothing. Then Liana stepped sideways and seemed to disappear into the rock. Jake followed. There was a narrow crack, just wide enough for a person to squeeze through. It was a hidden door. Inside, the world changed. The air was cool and damp. The sound of dripping water echoed. The narrow crack opened into a small canyon. Moonlight spilled down from the open slit of sky far above. And there, in the center, was a pool of clear, dark water. It spilled from a mossy crevice in the rock, singing a quiet song as it filled the pool and trickled away into the earth. "Kaya," Liana breathed. She knelt by the water and touched its surface. She closed her eyes. A single tear traced a line down her cheek. "It is still pure." Jake stood still, afraid to speak. It was more beautiful than any story. The water smelled sweet and clean. Ferns and green plants grew in the soft light around the pool. It was a piece of life hidden in the dry stone. A distant sound broke the spell, a low, grinding rumble. Then another, the sound of big engines. Liana's eyes snapped open. "They are on the other side of this wall. They're machines. They are drilling test holes. They are looking for the copper vein. They do not know the water is here yet, but they will find the crack. They will find this place." "What can we do?" Jake asked, his voice a whisper. Liana looked up at the canyon walls. She pointed to a spot high above them, where several massive slabs of rock leaned together. "That is weak. My grandmother's story said the stones above Kaya are its guardians. They can fall to seal the door if the heart is in danger." "A rock slide?" "Yes. It would block this entrance. Trap their machines on the other side. It would buy time." "Is it safe? For the spring?" "The water comes from deep below. The rocks would only close the door, not hurt the heart." She looked at him. "But it is a big thing. It will make a lot of noise. It will tell Sloan exactly where we are." The grinding sound grew louder. A sharp, screeching sound of metal on rock joined it. "They are close," Jake said. He thought of Elan, feverish in the cave. He thought of Ben. They had no time left. "Show me what to do." They scrambled up a steep, narrow trail on the side of the canyon. They reached the unstable slabs. Liana showed Jake where to place the long, strong branches they had gathered as levers. They braced them against a keystone. "When that stone moves," Liana said, "the others will follow. We push together. Then we run back down the path. Fast." They took their positions. The noise from the other side of the wall was deafening now. They could hear men shouting over the engines. "Now!" Liana yelled. They pushed the heavy branches with all their strength. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a deep groan, the keystone shifted. A crack appeared in the cliff face. "Go!" Jake shouted. They turned and ran, sliding and stumbling down the path. Behind them, the groan became a roar. A thunderous crash of rock splitting and falling filled the canyon. A cloud of dust billowed out, chasing them. They reached the canyon floor and dove behind a large boulder near the pool. The ground shook. The roaring went on for a long minute. Then slowly, it faded into a silence filled with the settling of grit and pebbles. Jake peered out. The narrow entrance crack was gone. A massive pile of fresh broken rock completely sealed the opening. The only light now was the moonlight from above. The only sound was the gentle song of Kaya. They had done it. They had closed the door. But as the dust settled, a new sound reached them. The faint, angry sound of men shouting from the other side of the rockfall. Sloan was there. And now he knew for certain that the secret was right behind that wall, and Ben was still in his camp. The cave felt different when Jake and Liana returned. Elan was sitting up, his eyes clearer. The green paste had fought the fever. Tomas was boiling water over a small shielded fire. "We heard the rocks fall," Elan said. "It was like thunder." "The entrance to Kaya is closed," Jake reported, sitting down wearily. "Sloan's machines are stuck on the other side, but his men are there. They know where it is now." "And my brother?" Liana asked, the question she had held in all the way back. "We saw only men and machines," Liana said softly. "No sign of Ben. He is still at the main camp." Elan moved his wounded arm carefully. "Then we keep to the new plan. But I will go with Jake. not Tomas. Your arm, Jake began, is stiff, but I can use it. Thomas will stay here with Liana. You will guard the canyon. If Sloane's men find a way in from above, you must be here. Ilan looked at Liana. You must protect Kaya. It is your duty. Liana wanted to argue. Jake saw it in her face, but she nodded. She understood duty. 2 are quieter than 3, Ilan said to Jake. And I know the look of Sloane's main camp. I have watched it from a distance. We leave now. The night is our friend. They prepared quickly. They took only water, a little food, and their knives. They left the rifles. Guns were for fights, and they did not plan to fight. They planned to slip in and out like shadows. Jake and Ilan left the cave. The moon was high, casting long black shadows across the land. They moved on foot, walking fast and quiet. You know this land in the dark? Ilan asked after a while. I do, Jake said. When you live alone, you learn the shape of things at night. That dark patch is a juniper grove. That flat space is where water runs when it rains. We follow this dry creek bed. It will lead us close to the camp. They walked for a long time. Ilan did not complain, but Jake could hear his breathing grow heavier on the climbs. Finally, Ilan stopped and pointed. Below them, in a wide, flat valley, were the lights of the mining camp. A big silver trailer stood in the middle. Several smaller trailers were around it. 2 large bulldozers sat like sleeping beasts. A tall fence of metal mesh surrounded the place. A single bright light on a pole lit the center. See the small trailer near the big one? Ilan whispered. The one with no windows in the back? That is where they keep him. I have seen a boy's face at the front window. Jake's heart ached. A trailer with no windows, a prison for a child. 2 men walk the fence, Ilan said. They are not careful. They are bored. They meet at the front gate every hour to talk. That is when the back of the camp is unwatched. That is our moment. They waited, lying on their stomachs on the cool earth. The night insects sang. Jake watched the 2 guards. One was tall and thin. One was heavy. They walked their loops slowly. As the moon moved higher, they met at the front gate. They lit cigarettes. Their laughter drifted up on the still air. Now, Ilan breathed. They moved down the slope like flowing water, staying in the deepest shadows. They reached the metal fence at the back of the camp, far from the light. Ilan took wire cutters from his pocket. He cut a small, quiet hole in the mesh, just big enough to crawl through. They were inside. The ground was churned to mud by machines. They stayed low, moving from the shadow of a truck to the shadow of a bulldozer, heading for the small trailer. They reached it. The door was on the side, facing the big silver trailer. A simple padlock held it shut. Ilan took out a small metal tool. He worked it into the lock. His good hand was steady. After a moment, there was a soft asterisk click asterisk. The lock opened. Jake pulled the door open. It creaked softly. Inside, in the dim light from the open door, a boy sat up on a narrow cot. He was small, with Liana's serious eyes wide with fear. Ben, Ilan whispered, we are friends of Liana. We are here to take you home. The boy's face changed. The fear broke, replaced by a desperate hope. He scrambled off the cot, not making a sound. He was dressed in jeans and a t-shirt. He had no shoes. From the big trailer, a door slammed. A man's voice, smooth and calm, cut through the night. Check on the boy. I don't like the quiet. It was Sloane. Go, Ilan hissed. Ben jumped from the trailer. Jake scooped him up without thinking, holding the boy against his chest. They ran, not for the hole in the fence, but straight across the dark camp toward the closest part of the slope. Going back the way they came would lead them right into the guards. Hey! A shout erupted behind them. Stop! A flashlight beam cut the darkness, sweeping wildly. It missed them. Jake ran, his legs burning, Ben clinging to his neck. Ilan was right beside him. They reached the fence. Ilan slashed at the mesh with his knife, cutting a rough, larger opening. They pushed through, the wire scraping at their clothes. They scrambled up the rocky slope as shouts and confusion erupted below. A shot rang out, hitting a rock far to their left. They did not stop. They ran into the welcoming, deep darkness of the desert, leaving the bright, angry lights of the camp behind. The walk back to the hidden cave was long and careful. Ben was light in Jake's arms, but the weight of the boy's fear was heavy. They stopped often, listening for sounds of pursuit. They heard only the wind. When they reached the cave, Liana was waiting at the entrance. She saw them and let out a small, choked cry. She ran forward. Jake set Ben down. The boy stumbled into his sister's arms. She held him tight, her face buried in his hair, whispering words Jake could not understand. She was crying and smiling at the same time. Elan placed a hand on Jake's shoulder. "You ran well for an old rancher." Jake managed a tired smile. "You cut a fence well for a man with one good arm." Inside the cave, the mood was quiet but warm. Thomas smiled for the first time in days. Ben ate some food and drank water. He told him in a small voice that Sloan had not hurt him, just kept him locked up. He said the men were mean, but Sloan was worse because he talked in a nice voice while his eyes were not nice at all. "What will Sloan do now?" Tomas asked. "His big machines are stuck," Elan said. "The rocks block them. He knows the secret is there, but he cannot reach it. He will try to clear the rock, but it will take many days, maybe weeks. And now he has lost his reason for being here." He looked at Ben and Liana. "He will leave," Liana said softly, holding Ben's hand. "He is a man who wants money. The rockfall made his work too hard, too slow. He will take what machines he can and go. The land will heal." They rested in the cave for 2 more days. Elan's arm grew stronger. On the 3rd morning, they decided to go home. They rode first to the sealed canyon. They climbed up to a high ledge and looked down. The pile of rock was immense. On the other side, they could see the mining camp being taken apart. Trucks were being loaded. Men were leaving. "You were right," Jake said. "The land protected itself," Liana said. "We just helped." They turned their horses. The warriors rode toward the east, toward the White Rock community. Jake turned Dusty west, toward his ranch. For a moment, he felt the old loneliness creeping back. The adventure was over. Then he heard hoofbeats. Liana was riding after him, Ben sitting behind her on the horse. "We will ride with you to your ranch," she said, "to say a proper thank you." When they reached the familiar fence line, the sun was setting. The ranch was just as he had left it. Quiet, empty, but this time, it did not feel the same. Liana and Ben stayed for a simple meal. As they were leaving, Liana said, "We will come back to visit. Ben wants to see the horse again, and I would like to hear more of your grandfather's stories." Jake nodded, a lump in his throat. "I'd like that." A week later, a truck came up the road. It was Elan. He got out, carrying a bag of coffee beans from the community store. "I thought you might need some that does not come from a can," he said. They sat on the porch and drank coffee. They did not talk much. They did not need to. The visits became regular. Sometimes Liana and Ben, sometimes Elan, sometimes one of the other warriors. Jake's quiet ranch was no longer lonely. It became a place people came to. One evening, Jake stood on the porch. The wide, empty sky was turning pink and orange. He touched the porch railing in the spot where Mary always leaned. He used to touch it and feel only loss. Now he touched it and remembered her smile. He also thought of Liana's calm strength, Ben's laughter, Elan's solid presence. He was not a relic from a simpler time. He was a man who had learned that time could bring new things if you were brave enough to let it. He looked at the sky and felt peace. It was not the peace of being alone. It was the peace of being part of something. The desert was alive around him, and so for the first time in a long time was his heart.